Skylar Neese was a 16-year-old girl who lived in a small town in West Virginia, and in the summer of 2012, she died at the hands of her so-called high school best friends. Skylar was an only child. She was absolutely adored by her parents and her community in her small town. They would do a lot of events. This is where she met her new best friend, Sheila Eddy, at the age of 8 years old. Sheila actually lived in a town that was around 20 miles away, but her life at home was a little bit more difficult. They were tight on money, so they were restricted on the things they could do, which is why they would drive the 20 miles to go to these free community events where she ended up meeting Skylar. They quickly became best friends, although they were complete opposites. Sheila had more of a loud personality. She was a bit of a wild child versus Skylar would be more cautious, more quiet. She liked to follow rules. And in 2010, Sheila and her family ended up moving closer to Skylar, so they started high school together. In high school is where their duo became a trio. They met a girl named Rachel. She was a lot more privileged. Her family was pretty wealthy, and her personality was more like Sheila's in the way that she was more outgoing and kind of liked to rebel a little bit more. The three girls started doing everything together, and the dynamic of the group was that Sheila and Rachel were loud, strong personalities versus Skylar, so they would butt heads a lot versus Skylar was kind of the peacemaker in between them, and she kept the friend group together. Freshman year of high school, Sheila starts to get a little bit crazy. She likes to party more. She's hanging out with boys, and Skylar's more, again, likes to follow rules. She's planning to go to school to become a criminal defense lawyer. So as Sheila and Rachel are getting a little bit out of her comfort zone, she tells her parents that she's going to have to find some new friends that are a little bit more her speed. The next year, Skylar gets a job at Wendy's, and she's slowly starting to distance herself from Rachel and Sheila. She doesn't want to cut them off completely because, again, they've been her best friends for a long time, but she starts trying to find new things to do. Rachel and Sheila notice that, and they start being intentionally mean to her, sort of in a subtle way. They would plan matching outfits together and not tell Skylar. They started going out to lunch, having sleepovers without Skylar, and it was kind of just awkward tension in the group. Skylar would notice some of the things that Rachel and Sheila were doing, and you can tell that she noticed by some of the tweets that she had. For example, one of them said, "Sick of being at home. Thanks, friends. Love hanging out with y'all too." July 5th, 2012, Skylar works a closing shift at Wendy's. Then she gets home, starts getting ready for bed, goes to sleep. The dad wakes up the next morning, realizes that Skylar has to go to work, but she's not getting ready. So he knocks on her door. The door is locked. So he picks the lock, walks in there, and sees that the window was left open. Her bed also looked like it hadn't been slept in. So the dad thinks that she snuck out last night to hang out with a boy or go to a party or something. He tells the mom. The mom thinks that she definitely snuck out to go hang out with Sheila and Rachel. Skylar's parents call Sheila and Rachel, and they're like, "All right, where is she?" They say that they don't know. And around 4 p.m., Skylar has a shift at Wendy's. The manager calls her parents asking where she is. And now they're like, "All right, this isn't funny anymore. She's not showing up to work. We haven't heard from her. Where is she?" The parents call Sheila and Rachel again, and they're like, "Look, we know she was with you. You guys are best friends. You have to know where she is." Sheila then says, "Fine, we actually did pick her up last night around 11 p.m. She snuck out. We drove her on for around 2 hours and then dropped her off back at home." The police gets called. Volunteers start to get involved and start looking for Skylar. They're printing out missing people's posters, and there's search parties walking around everywhere. And the one person that was at every search was Sheila Eddy. Rachel had left town the next day to go to a church camp, I believe. So Rachel's out of town. She's still acting upset. Sheila was a mess. She was visibly upset, often crying, calling Skylar dad, asking if there's anything she can do to help. She would call Skylar's mom, would have heart-to-heart cries with her mom about how concerned she was for Skylar. Very, very worried, just hoping her friend was okay and very willing to help. The police end up getting a hold of security camera footage from the apartment, and in that footage, there is a camera that points directly to Skylar's window, and you can see her sneaking out, climbing out of her window. Now, because of that, it kind of messed up the whole investigation because the cops couldn't issue an Amber Alert since Skylar technically left on her own free will. The investigation continues. They look into her phone records as well as her bank account records, and they see that it has been completely inactive. And as the investigation continues, Sheila and Rachel are being questioned regularly because they admitted they were the last two people to see Skylar. So they're talking to the police a lot, and they look anxious, but nothing suspicious yet. They just assumed that they were nervous because no one really knew what was going on, and Skylar was just missing. Throughout this time as well, Sheila and Rachel are very active on social media, specifically Twitter. They would write to Skylar saying, "We miss you. Please come home. School is so weird without you. We can't wait until you're back. I think about you 24/7. We just want you back safely. You will always be our best friend." Throughout the conversations that Rachel and Sheila are having with the police, Rachel tells the police that they drove out to some random woods when they picked up Skylar. They apparently would often go to these woods to smoke. And they said they were talking about their friendship because there had been some tension in the car. And in the middle of the conversation, Skylar just runs out of the car into the woods. And then eventually Sheila and Rachel walk in there to try and find her. They can't find her, so they just leave. That's Rachel's story. So their stories are getting weird. It's kind of like they talk to the police, they say different things, and then the next day they talk to the police and their stories match up again. Sort of like they're planning to speak about what they're going to tell the police, and then they decide they're going to do a lie detector test on both girls. Sheila fails her lie detector test. Rachel, her parents are driving her, and on the way to take it, she starts having a panic attack and freaks out, jumps out of the car, and says that she cannot take the test. December 16th, Skylar's mom makes a really long Facebook status saying that she's very sad that she knows that Skylar's probably no longer alive. And she also talks about some of the weird things that have been going on with Rachel and Sheila, kind of making it sound like they may have done something to her. After that post, rumors start going around the town and their school that they go to that Skylar probably overdosed and that her friends are covering up. So Sheila, while these rumors are going on, is still kind of unbothered, but Rachel is losing her shit. She has such a bad nervous breakdown that her parents admit her to a psychiatric unit for a whole week. As soon as she gets out of the unit, she tells her parents that she needs to go speak to her lawyer immediately. And after she speaks to her lawyer, they go to the police station together. At the police station, Rachel is visibly uncomfortable. She's shaken up, sweating, tells the cops that she might throw up, and then looks at them directly in the eye and says, "We stabbed her." Rachel then confesses to the police that they had been planning this murder for 9 months. Their reasoning was that Skylar was just in their way and they just didn't like her anymore, so they wanted to get rid of her, and they kept joking around like, what if we just got rid of Skylar, until eventually it wasn't a joke anymore. And they really planned it out. Like, they decided that summer would be the best time because by the time school started again, everyone would forget about Skylar. And Sheila was doing research about how to murder someone, how to dispose of a body, and they even asked Skylar how she would want to die. So what really happened the night that they picked up Skylar was that Sheila and Rachel prepared this kit and they put it in Sheila's car. It was towels, bleach, a shovel, fresh change of clothes for both girls, and they both grabbed the biggest kitchen knives from their kitchens. They then pick up Skylar, they drive out to the woods. They tell Skylar that the reason they're there is because they want to smoke. Skylar says she forgot her lighter in the car, so as she turns around to go get her lighter, the two girls look at each other and say 1, 2, 3, and they stab Skylar. They're stabbing Skylar and they stab her over 50 times in the back and in the neck. And Rachel says that the only word that Skylar could get out was why. They were stabbing her multiple times over and over again. Skylar was trying to get away, but she couldn't because it was 2 against 1. And she just kept asking why. Once they were done with the stabbing, they were looking at her. She wasn't dead yet. They just looked at her until she bled out, and then they went to go hide the body with a shovel. But they realized that they couldn't dig up the ground because it was too rocky, so they just propped up her body against a tree and just put leaves and rocks around it to try and hide it. And then they washed off in the nearby creek. They cleaned themselves off, cleaned up the crime scene, put on their new fresh pair of clothes that they had in the car, went home, and went to bed. Rachel went to church camp the next morning, and Sheila was putting up the act that she cared, that she was trying to help the family find Skylar, just acting so concerned, as if they didn't know that they just killed their best friend and left her body alone in the woods. Like I said, the woods were actually across state lines, so they were in Pennsylvania, and Rachel was going to take the police there to show them where her body was, but they had just gotten a lot of snow, so they had to wait until the snow melted until Rachel could go and show where the body was. The police find the body, and Sheila is still keeping up the act, maintaining her innocence. She says when she heard that the body was found, she goes on Twitter and she tweets, "Rest easy, Skylar, you will always be my best friend. I miss you more than you could ever know." Girl, the gig is up. When the police were asking Rachel why she did this, why they planned to kill her best friends, literally the only thing that Rachel would say is that we just didn't like her anymore. We didn't want to be her friend, so we had to kill her. When the cops were looking throughout Skylar's room, they found her diary and they found out that Sheila and Rachel were pretty much in a romantic relationship. Later in the trial, Rachel said that at the time of the murder, her and Sheila were in a romantic relationship and they were afraid that Skylar would expose their secret, which is the real reason why they killed her. Rachel turned herself in May 1st, 2013. Sheila was arrested and they were both charged with the murder of their 16-year-old best friend. Rachel pled guilty. She was sentenced to 30 years in prison, eligible for parole after only 10 years. Sheila was found guilty, sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 15 years. May 2023, so just last year, after 10 years of being in prison, Rachel tried to get out on parole, but she was denied. You guys should look up videos of Sheila and Rachel at the trial. Sheila is just a psychopath. She has no emotion, but Rachel is apologizing to Skylar's family. And it's like, all right, thanks, but you wouldn't have to apologize if you just let her live. Anyway, one good thing that did come out of the trial is Skylar's Law in West Virginia. It's a law saying that an Amber Alert can and will be issued for any missing child. Remember, they couldn't call an Amber Alert because Skylar had left on her own accord. So Skylar's Law is now a thing in West Virginia, maybe other states. But yeah, let me know your thoughts.